We've probably all heard that real estate is one of the best wealth building tools in the world. And it can be if you don't get into the wrong deal. It really can be. It's also one of the ways or the easiest ways to lose money because there's so many moving pieces. The complexity is indeed can get overwhelming. And so it's easy to lose money through trickles if you never really think about it. And so making sure that you enter the right deal cannot be overemphasized. And one thing that people don't ever think about is like owning an investment property is not really interpreted in the way that should be. Owning an investment property means that you're owning people and you're owning the numbers. You're owning the contract, but you're also depending on professionals, managers, property managers, whether or not you're handyman, your real estate agent, all the professionals on the other side, and the other people that make it worth it or not, the tenants and the people, you're also dealing with them. So it's half numbers and half people. And everything looks great theoretically and on paper until people enter the chat. People are so unpredictable and they don't care. A lot of them, and when you find tenants that care about your property, you better be happy, you better be gracious. They don't always care. And sometimes they feel like they can get back to you or get back at you using your property because they know it's one of your assets. So owning real estate is really understanding that you're owning both the people and the numbers, not either or, not one or the other. It's both together and both have to work in sync for this to make sense for you. It's beautiful. It can be beautiful, but when people enter the chat, you have to make sure that you are juggling as best as you can, managing people, managing emotions, managing your asset as well. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty of today, if you're just seeing my face for the first time, welcome. We're happy to have you. And my name is Desayo. I'm a Harvard-trained ex-Wall Street professional helping real people take control of their money. Let's jump in. If I were buying my first investment property again, the first question I would ask is not just numbers, it's not just the price point, which is great. The first question I would ask is my strategy. What am I doing? What exactly is this real estate project supposed to do for me? And the two that I wanted to pick on today were just like buy and hold, i.e. rent, or fix and flip. I know that there are so many different other strategies in real estate that people preach about and people talk about, but that's what, for the purposes of this channel, or today, this is what we're going to focus on. Buying and holding a property is a different situation than fixing and flipping it. And your numbers look different, your lenders look different, your situation and the way you're going into it and what you expect to get out of it also are very different. Let's take buying and holding, for example. You're buying a property, you probably want to get a tenant ready because, again, you're buying and holding, and maybe you're playing the equities game. You wanted to sort of grow in equity while you get some cash flow to maintain it. You want to collect rent over time, and that property price is very important too because it determines your mortgage payment, your down payment, your insurance, your taxes, and all of that stuff has to work out for it to make sense on a month-to-month for you because you're also dealing with maintenance, you're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with tenants, you're dealing with vacancies. All of that has to be featured and structured into your strategy. Now, if you're talking fix and flip, you're thinking hard money lenders or some type of lender that is usually not market rate. They're usually on the higher side. You're trying to get in and get out as quickly as possible. But you also need to understand that contractors, may happen. Supply chain issues may happen. You can lose money in trickles. Like if you're not able to go there day to day, people may say that they're doing something, but maybe they're not really doing what they're doing or what they tell you that they're doing. And so each time that passes by is a day that it's into your margin. And when you're even done with the project, are you able to sell at the top or the price point, the minimum price point that you thought you could sell at? What is your ACV? Like there's so many things that goes into also fixing and flipping. If we're talking about buying and holding that strategy, you want to make sure that your landing numbers make sense. Okay. You want to aim for positive cash flows only as much as possible. Positive cash flows. What are you comfortable covering in your mortgage, in your taxes, your insurance, your HOA every month? What is that number for you? How much are you able to rent at in that location? You also have to factor in things like vacancy gaps, and that could be anywhere from 25% to 40%. If you're at 100%, fantastic to you. Will you be at 100% every single day for the next 15 to 30 years? If that answer is no, then you still have to bake in at least like some level of non-occupied rooms and units for your numbers, just for your sanity, so that when it happens, you're not caught off guard. Property management. Are you going to be managing this yourself? Is that money coming into your pocket? And even if it is, it should act as income if you are managing it yourself, because if you had to pay somebody else to manage it, you'll be paying them. Bucket another 10 to 15% on top of that. And what's your maintenance reserve? If other people are living in your property, they will not they will not be managing it the way you will manage your property. So if you know that, you certainly would have to maintain the property in some way, shape, or form. You would have to replace certain things. You would have to upkeep the property. You would have to paint it. You would have to pull out the carpet. I mean, things will have to be done. Okay. Then we're thinking about making things tenant ready. If you buy a property that was already in a good place, maybe new, maybe not, maybe you don't have to spend so much to make it tenant ready, right? Maybe, you're just looking at like in the lows of like a couple $100, $1,000, or you just need to put a bed, you just need to put this, very minimal things. But also, if you wanted to do a complete facelift, you could be looking at thousands of dollars, and you also have to factor that into the cost that goes into the property before you even start making any type of cash flow. What are the pros of buying and holding? At least like what people hope for is some steady type of passive income. Is it really passive? That's a whole different conversation. And you also hope for long-term appreciation. You're hoping that, the equity in that market does climb, and you're choosing that in the future, this location that I'm choosing I'm betting on it, growing and not depreciating, that the people are moving out and then your home is useless. You're hoping that people will move into this location that you've selected. You're making a bet on the future and hoping that, the price point of your property will appreciate over time. That's left for the future to tell us, but that's part of what you're betting on. Cons of it though, the downside of, buying and holding, you're thinking about management responsibilities. You're thinking about very snail-like, very slow returns. Month to month, when you run the numbers, some people talk about making just $100 per unit per month. What does that do? Some people, make up to $500, but is that real $500, or is that because you're doing so many other things and that $500 will not be there if you weren't? Like if you had to employ other people to do some of the things that you're doing, that wouldn't be cash flow. So that's sort of income because it's paying for your time. But a lot of people complain about that being part of the challenge with buying and holding. Tenant headaches. They're going to call you at 2 a.m. And if you don't want to take that call, then you have to pay for somebody else to manage your property and pay them, right? So those are parts of the tenant, not just managing the people, but also the different maintenance things that will happen and how they handle it. Could be their fault, but you can't say, oh, because you broke the toilet and you go fix it. It sort of doesn't work like that. You would hope that you're getting people that are reasonable and rational and are, good and improved people versus otherwise. But certain things are the landlord's responsibility, and you should be ready to take care of those things when they do happen. Another nuance that I want to mention is proximity to the property. I have listened here on YouTube, and a lot of people will say, oh, I do out of state, deals and things like that. And maybe they do, maybe they have what they're not maybe disclosing to you, that they have boots on ground that they can trust, that are maybe family, maybe close friends, close allies, whatever. Or maybe they're able to jump on a quick flight and they're there in a couple of hours if they had to. But proximity to the property is something that cannot be overemphasized. You want to be able to live, breathe, see what you're purchasing, because again, it's a long-term contract, and you want to be able to react if anything were to happen, and quickly too. Sometimes relying on property managers may not be in your best interest, because again, incentives perhaps don't align. You may luck out, but you seeing what they're telling you real time and them knowing that you had access and proximity to the property could also really streamline the different incentives, and so much so that it could then be aligned. But it's very important that you do have some level of access to that property, and very quickly too. It does increase your stability and your peace of mind. Just so you know, just being able to go there, be palpable for situations to be palpable, touchable for you, makes it a lot easier to deal with. Okay, let's jump into an example, and I have numbers in front of me. Let's say you are doing a buy and hold, and your property price right now is at 300,000. Your down payment, since it's an investment property, let's look at 20%. So you're putting down $60,000, and your mortgage would eventually then be $240,000. Right now, interest rates are hovering around 6 to 7%, and so your monthly payment before taxes and insurance can land somewhere around $2,300 a month. So you're looking at $2,300 a month, and we're going to assume that there's no HOA. That's sort of the number that we're starting with, your baseline number. Now, if you bake in vacancy buffers, if you bake in, potential for you to just like do any maintenance on this property at all, this property is looking like it may be a negative cash flow, or maybe sort of close to $200 to $400 negative cash flow, because we're assuming that you may not be able to rent that property for much more than $2,500. And so when you factor in vacancies and when you factor in management costs and things like that, you might have to come out of pocket just to keep that property afloat. But it may make sense for you because you're betting on the appreciation of that area over the years, such that you can then resell eventually, and this is just a holding pattern for you. So depending on what works for you, this is an example of how you can quickly get into the negative, even if you run your numbers and your numbers look like 2,300, and you're thinking, oh, I can, rent this space for 2,600. That only leaves you with $300 room margin. But if your roof goes out, that $300 does nothing for you. If your HVAC goes out, that $300 maybe gets your credit card. Gets your credit card. It doesn't do much for you. Okay. So, and if the unit is empty, then you're not carrying that entire cost on your own. And that's why you need to have a buffer. So if we jump into fix and flip, the idea with fix and flip is you're buying something that's run down, something that you know that you can, renovate and then sell, so you can capture the spread. You buy something at 100K, you put 50K in, you're all in 150K, and you're thinking, oh, I can sell it for 250K, and I can capture that $100,000 right off the bat. That's usually what people are trying to play. And numbers can look different, numbers can be bigger, but that's usually what people are trying to play when they go into fixes and flip. You want to capture the spread after renovation. So let's jump into another example for this one. So you buy a property and it's $200,000. Your renovation is about $30,000. So you're all into $230,000 upfront, and you are looking to sell it for $270,000, and you're thinking, oh, I'll capture the 40K spread. But are you thinking about your interest rate fees? And if you're borrowing $230,000, how much do you have to pay for that? Or are you going to do a hard money lender just for the amount that you're going to renovate? Like, how are you financing the deal? The cost of financing could eat up a lot of that margin that you might think that you have, especially if you don't sell at 270 that you benchmark selling at. All of that has to be factored in. Now, part of the profit of doing, or part of the pros of doing something like this, is that, you have faster profit. You're not waiting like snail mail on the buy and hold. It's like quick. You get in, you get out. If you can. If it does happen as perfectly as that, you can get in very quickly. You learn very quickly. You land a very good ROI, and maybe you can jump into the next deal. Is it always quick and clean like that? No. A lot of the times it may not even be as quick or as clean. You may have complexities and shackles in the process, but that's essentially the idea theoretically of what it could be. The downside of fixing and flipping is higher financial costs. So you're going in financing, your financing costs, not just of actually buying the property, but also like getting the capital. So the access to that capital, you're paying for that. Also is a higher risk because you could be stuck with the property. You may underestimate how much work needs to be done on the property. There could be delays in your renovation process. Maybe what you had hoped would take 30 days and you're going to pay back this other people by 30 days is not extending, thereby increasing your cost of capital. markets could turn. So the market could be favorable to fixes and flip right now. And by the time you're done in a 60-day window, the markets are just not where they used to be. And all of a sudden, your fix and flip is no longer a fix and flip, it's now a buy and hold. And you have to figure out how to refinance the whole situation. It could get really bad really quickly if if things don't go perfectly neatly. You want to think about things like, your interest rate, the cost of your interest, how much are you paying to finance the capital that we talked about? Are there going to be origination fees? Are there going to be legal fees? What am I thinking about a 3-month project? Is it a 6-month project? Or it's a 6-month project, but I'm baking a wiggle room and I'm making it a 9-month project. All of these, because the deadlines can really add up really quickly, and you want to make sure that you have at least like some room to flex if you had to. You also want to make sure that you know the market that you're going into, whether you're buying, buy and hold, fix and flip. The market, you may be knee deep into something that's completely over your head, where you just don't understand the market. Some markets favor tenants. So, like, they embolden tenants. And are you really up for that? Do you know how to navigate in such scenarios? Or you want something that's a little more steady, and like, if you need to evict someone, you can do it rather quickly, versus someone who, like, the tenants may not be paying tenants and they're not accepting cash for keys, they're not trying to get out, but they're still going to be dragging you even through a legal process that you're financing and you're paying for, and there's no hope of you capturing all of that money back from your rent. Like, you want to make sure that you understand the nitty-gritty of the market that you're going into, because that can really make your deal fall flat if you don't plan for that. Like I mentioned, proximity to the property managers are good, but that's what all they are. They're managers. Their credit is not on the line. They're not the ones that are obligated to pay the bills or to finance the deal. They are just helpers, and you need to understand that their incentive is to get paid for the work that they're doing. You are the one carrying the weight of the responsibility. And so their eyes can be your proxy eyes, but it shouldn't be all the eyes that you got. You should be in and understand that you are the one who has skin in the game. They can help, but it's really your responsibility. If you're closer, you can often make, quicker decisions. You have better oversight. They know that you can jump in if you ever had to. And so maybe they will sit up, i.e. the property managers will sit up and be more proactive instead of reactive and telling you, oh, that's how it's done. Like, if you don't know the market well enough, you start hearing things like, oh, that's how it's done here. And, this is what this means here. And because you're in over your head, you don't know how to push back or be firm or be assertive, because you don't even know the information that you should have known before you got into the situation. So optimize for peace of mind. And even if you were fixing and flipping or buying and holding, you still have to make sure that the property looks good enough, i.e. if you need to update appliances, because even tenants are like, oh, maybe a stainless steel apartment, by the way, could move faster than, i.e. could rent quicker, and to the choice tenants, to the preferred tenants, than maybe a different set of, appliances. You'd be surprised the sort of things that tenants look for in an apartment. It's not just a place over their heads, especially for those who, are going to be the good tenants. Sometimes they also are looking for some level of convenience, and you might want to be able to afford that for them, just because the long-term relationship may be more profitable versus renting to just anybody. The choice of tenants can make or break your deal. If anything were to be done on the property as well, minor repairs here and there or big repairs, you want to make sure that you are ready for that, and that you're factoring those into your numbers. Overall, the people part of a real estate deal is louder, in my opinion, than the numbers part. The numbers are the numbers of the numbers. 1 + 1 will always be 2. That's not going to change. So once you understand the numbers, you realize that, okay, this is what the numbers will be. They will not change, but people, oh God, people change every day. People are that's the part that you really need to sink your teeth and really lean into, because that's where your variables are going to come from. Contractors may not stick to the deadline and may not understand the cost of pushing deadlines. Situations could happen. Your tenants they may really try to get you some gray hairs before you really indeed need them. Your property managers, may or may not do what they signed up to do. And all of these things, repairs, delays, timelines, just like people ghosting on you, all of those would have like financial consequences for you as a carrier. Okay. So in a way that protects yourself, in a way that you are the lead and the champion of this project. You sort of want to make yourself available, and you want to understand the breadth of what you're going into, and realizing that I don't really know if it's passive per se, but to an extent, you have to be active. Whether it's like understanding the receipt that you're being given to make sure that no one is paying a fast one on you, understanding that even when people report certain things to you, you might want to triple check to make sure that that's the situation. In fact, one of my friends told me at one point that she did have a property manager that was swindling her, inflating costs and things like that. And at some point, she just decided to do an audit because it was just getting overbearing. And she was able to claw back almost $10,000 from that. I think it was precisely about 7K or 7,000 plus. And of course, she was, the person got fired and she was made to pay back. But if she never did the audit, maybe she never would have clawed back that amount of money. And that's your profit that's going to somebody else that's getting paid. So I'm not saying that everybody is like this. I'm not saying that all property managers are fraudulent. I'm just saying that their instincts are not as sharp as yours because your credit is not on the line. It's not their financial life that's really on the line here. So it's you, and you need to be in the driver's seat, point blank, period. Your first investment property will probably be a learning tool for you. So keep your ears close to the ground. Make sure that you're very close to the deal. Don't do some faraway thing and, just think that it's going to be roses and petals. And maybe it will be for you, but realize that at some point you're going to learn in real estate. And whatever you learn, whether it's your stress tolerance, like, oh, I really don't want to deal with tenants. Like, tenants is just, for the life of me, I don't want to have to deal with that. At least now you know that about yourself. And then you can carry that forward into other deals that you're doing. If you do future deals. Or it could be that, the numbers, I'm just going to outsource that to somebody else. And when they bring me the final calculations, then I can jump in as like the last leg. Or you're thinking, you know what, I would rather do things differently. These are my likes, these are my dislikes. I'll merge them properly just so it makes sense for me. Overall, you want to be as structured as possible. Numbers on one side, build margins, build flexibility, be conservative with your numbers and with the wiggle room that you're giving yourself, because life happens. People happen. In real estate, a lot of people happen to different deals and different projects. And you want to be able to account for that before you, while you're going in. Really going in, you want to be able to account for those type of situations. If I'm going to summarize in sort of a short burst, I would say buy deals that survive reality, not deals that look the best on spreadsheets, because spreadsheets are only half of the equation. Buy deals that can survive the most adverse of scenarios. Super, super important. And also know that the spreadsheets are not going to call you at 2 a.m. The tenants will, though. The tenants are going to give you gray hair, may give you gray hair if you're not ready for it. So your level of stress tolerance, whether or not you outsource that first level of contact, it's still going to come back to you, and you need to be ready, mentally ready, psychologically ready for all of that, and realize that real estate is not quite as passive as people make it seem. Except you have such a huge portfolio and somebody else is taking all that heat. But real estate, especially when you're starting out, is not quite passive. It's sort of active, and you have to be ready to take on that role when the need arises. And if you love content like this, brag about it. Why don't you go ahead and brag about it? And how, you may ask? By clicking on that subscribe button and subscribing, joining the family. We will love, love, love to have you. Of course, also turn on your notification bells, because I will be dropping more videos soon. And I would love, love, love to see you on the next one. And I will catch you right on the next one. I'll see you again soon.